It's been 4 years since that night, but the memory is as vivid as if it happened yesterday. Sometimes, when that woman's grotesque face appears in my dreams, I wake up screaming. Even now, as I type this, goosebumps crawl across my skin, and a cold sweat trickles down my back. It was mid-June on a rainy evening, one of those days when the sky never really brightens, and the rain just keeps falling like the world's holding its breath. I was on the veranda, rushing to bring in the laundry before the storm got worse. That's when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I turned my head, and there was a woman standing at the end of the driveway, just in front of my house. At first glance, it looked like she had no head. A short, involuntary scream escaped me. Not loud, just a startled, breathless noise. But when I focused, I realized the truth was somehow even worse. Her head wasn't missing, it was just tilted all the way back, so far back it looked unnatural, like her neck was broken. Her mouth was wide open. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just stood there, facing the sky. The only sound was the rain. I stood frozen for a full minute, watching her. She never looked at me, never shifted, not even a twitch. I felt cold fear drip down my spine. Something in me knew, don't provoke her. So I quietly continued gathering the laundry, moving as softly as I could. I started walking toward the front door. That's when she snapped her head toward me. My heart stopped. Her face was lit up with this unbelievably joyful expression, but it wasn't normal. It looked stuck, almost like a mask. People smile and then their faces return to neutral, but hers didn't. She just kept smiling, wide, unblinking, unmoving. It was a smile I can't even begin to describe. The most joyful, most horrifying expression I've ever seen on a human face. Something inside me said, "She's not right. She's not safe." But I didn't say a word. I didn't make a sound. I ran. I bolted for the front door, yanked it open, dashed inside, and slammed it shut behind me. Click. I locked it. 3 seconds later, there was a massive bang against the door. I screamed and dropped everything. The laundry scattered everywhere. I collapsed to the floor. "What are you doing?" I screamed. My voice sounded like a terrified child's, but there was no answer, just silence. I remember thinking, how did she get here so fast? I had just shut the door just seconds ago, and somehow she had reached it and slammed into it with terrifying force. It sounded like a body slam, not just a knock. "I'm calling the police," I shouted. Still silence. I crept to the window and peeked outside. She was back in the driveway, standing exactly where she had been before, head still tilted back, face still grinning at the sky. Every now and then she would twist her body like she was celebrating some private joy. I called the police. They arrived not long after and arrested her. I remember one of the officers asking me if I was okay, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. Her face, it was bleeding. Blood was dripping from her nose and forehead. That's when I realized she had slammed her face into my front door, but even with the blood, she was still smiling. I never heard what happened to her. The police never followed up with me. They just took her away. Maybe she was mentally ill, maybe she was high. I don't know. But I still don't understand why she ran at me like that, and I can't stop thinking, if I hadn't shut that door in time, she would have slammed right into me. I think about that moment every time it rains. My name is Erica, and this is a true story that happened when I was 23 years old. Though I remember it like it was yesterday, I'm 61 now, and this experience still haunts me. My friends and I had decided to escape the city for a weekend of camping, eager to disconnect and enjoy nature. The woods were dense and eerily quiet. The only sounds were the soft murmur of our conversations and the occasional hoot of an owl. As the night deepened, the firelight flickered, and the shadows seemed to slither and twist with a life of their own. We shared ghost stories, each one more chilling than the last, until an uneasy silence settled over the group. Just as I was about to break the tension with a joke, a faint rustling came from the edge of the clearing. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. We all froze, straining to listen. The rustling grew louder and closer. It wasn't the sound of an animal or the wind. It was slow, deliberate. "Probably just a raccoon," Jake muttered, trying to sound brave, but his eyes betrayed him. Before anyone could move, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was tall and gaunt, with long, spindly limbs. But what stopped us cold was its face, or rather, the lack of one. Where its face should have been was a smooth, featureless expanse of pale skin, like stretched wax. We stared in stunned silence, unable to process what we were seeing. Then, with a sudden jerky movement, the faceless being lunged. Chaos erupted. We scrambled to our feet, the firelight casting frantic shadows across our panicked faces. "Run!" I screamed, grabbing Sarah's hand and dragging her toward the forest. We bolted through the underbrush, branches clawing at our skin. Behind us, the faceless creature moved with unnatural speed, its limbs snapping forward like spider legs. We stumbled into a clearing, hearts racing. Jake and Tom were gone. "We have to find them," Sarah gasped, her eyes wide with fear. Then came a scream, high, sharp, and full of terror. It was Jake. We ran toward the sound, the scream cutting off abruptly, replaced by a wet, sickening noise that made my stomach lurch. We found Jake near a large oak tree. His body was crumpled, blood pooling around him, eyes frozen open in a mask of pure horror. The faceless thing loomed over him, its head tilted as if admiring its work. "Tom, where's Tom?" Sarah sobbed. I turned, and there he was, another lifeless figure, twisted unnaturally on the forest floor, his face contorted in pain. The being looked at us. We ran again, deeper into the woods, the sound of its pursuit never far behind. My lungs burned, my legs were lead, but I didn't stop. We burst into another clearing, and there it was, a small, crumbling cabin. "There!" I shouted. We sprinted to the door and slammed it shut, barring it with a thick wooden plank. The creature pounded against it, each blow shaking the cabin. Then silence. "Do you think it's gone?" Sarah whispered. "I don't know," I said, dread curling in my chest. The silence dragged on, and then the door exploded inward. The faceless being stood in the doorway, head cocked, savoring our fear. It moved toward us slowly, arms outstretched. We slowly backed up until we pressed ourselves against the far wall. Sarah screamed as it reached for her, its long, bony fingers inches from her face. In a final, desperate move, I grabbed a broken piece of wood and struck it. It barely flinched. Its empty face turned to me. It reached out, and the moment its skin touched mine, everything went black. I woke up the next morning on the forest floor. The cabin was gone. Sarah was gone. Jake, Tom, gone. All that remained was the blood on my clothes and the crushing dread in my chest. To this day, I don't know what that creature was. Maybe it was something not of this earth. Maybe it was never meant to be seen. I never told anyone what happened. Who would believe me? Now I see a psychiatrist trying to get this thing out of my head, But sometimes I still wake up gasping from nightmares, hearing that inhuman scream. I think about Jake and Tom every day. I wonder, would they have families now if that night never happened? I just want young people to be careful. You never know what's out there. Because sometimes the woods take more than just your peace and quiet. Sometimes they take